We'll continue. Now I started recording. The battery is up. So what do? Okay, let's see this year's chart, New Year chart. Which country should we see? US first? I have a Panchanga. I have to check out these things. I haven't seen until now. Washington DC. Let's make the next New Year previous lunar New Year chart. So the lunar New Year chart was on March 26 at 12:17 p.m.
So I get to the new chart and go on the annual chart before, right?
What?
How do you see the lunar chart in?
How do you see? Just make today's date and time and enter Washington DC and then go to the mundane tab and then click lunar New Year previous button. In the lunar chart there is a lunar New Year button in the mundane tab. Mundane.
Yes.
Click lunar New Year previous before this date. So it will show March 26, 2009 around noon time, basically 12:09 p.m. Did you get it?
City and we are entering the city.
Okay.
Mundane tab. Lunar New Year.
Yeah.
First one. 8 1. Previous, right? March 26 it came.
March 26 around noon time, 12:09 p.m. 12:17 p.m. Depending on the INAM side, it will be slightly different.
12:06 a.m.
12:06 for you for PM. AM? Are you sure? Are you sure?
Lunar New Year, right?
Yeah. Oh. 11:06 AM. Not okay. The time zone I'm taking is 4. You are taking 5. That's why. Okay. So you are getting 12:06. Okay. Yeah, yours is an older version, so it's still taking 5 hours time zone. Okay. So we are basically getting the same. I'm getting 19 degree 22 minutes Virgo as Lagna. You are probably getting a degree or 2 degrees before. Right. Okay. So we are fine. So the Lagna should be, if you use Jagannath Hainamcha, the Lagna in the lunar New Year chart should be, it should be, 14 degrees 55 minutes Gemini, right? 14 degrees 55 minutes Gemini. Around.
19 degrees.
Yeah, so it's very close. Good. So the rising sign is Gemini. And who is the Hora Lord? What is the Hora at that time?
Moon is the
Moon is the
Hora.
Hora Lord. Okay, ruler of the year is Moon. So keep that aside. How is the chart? What is your impression? How is the chart? 10th house has many planets, right? Good or bad? Good planets or bad planets? Well, there is Amavasya Yoga in the 10th house, but apart from it, it has Lagna Lord, 5th Lord, 3rd Lord, 2nd Lord. 2nd and 3rd Lord are not particularly welcome there, especially because they form Amavasya Yoga, but Mercury and Venus are giving a nice Raj Yoga. Mercury is at 8 degrees, Venus is at 14 degrees, Moon at 12 degrees, Sun at 12 degrees. So Sun, Moon and Venus are very close, Mercury is also close by. So it's actually a close conjunction of the 4 planets. So there is a nice Raj Yoga but spoiled by an Amavasya Yoga. Right? And the Mrityapada is there, 8 is there in the 10th house. Now 10th Lord, how is he? He is in the 8th house in Nisha with Rahu. So there is some problem relating to the 10th house. Right? That is one thing. Now how are the other things? How is Saturn placed in the 3rd house? Very nice. He is a functional benefit and a natural male shape. He is the 8th and 9th Lord, so he is a functional benefit and he is a natural male shape. He is in the 3rd house. So his being placed in the 3rd house is quite good. Being a male shape. So Saturn is good. Saturn is well placed. Mars He is the 6th Lord. So 6th Lord in the 9th house, not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. He is aspecting Saturn. So 6th and 8th Lords are aspecting each other. And one of them is in 3rd house. So it's not bad. It's kind of like a Viparita Rajoga. So Mars is okay. Saturn is excellent, even though he is in inimical sign. Mercury and Venus are fine, but they are restricted by the Amavasya Yoga. Right? Ketu is not great. He is the 6th Lord in the 2nd house, not great. But the worst is Jupiter. He is with Rahu.
Debilitated.
He is what? He is debilitated. 9th Lord debilitated. 7th Lord debilitated in 8th. He is a Marka. Jupiter is a Marka. Okay? Jupiter is problem. Rahu also is not great. Is Rahu great? He is the 9th Lord in the 8th house. Is that good? Not really. 9th house shows the religiousness in the country as well as the fortune. So, lot of the house of fortune being in the 9th summit is not really good. So, Rahu is also not that good. Okay? Okay. So, let us see the dashas. How are the dashas? Which dasha should we use? Vimshottari, right. Exactly. Which Vimshottari? Should we use from Lagna or Moon? All have 3 planets in Kendras from them. So we'll just use Janma. We'll use the Moon based Vimshottari, okay?
Shukra is a return planet and is exalted.
Right, that's not good.
It's not some
And Mercury is debilitated.
debilitated.
Right. And moreover, they are restricted closely by the Amavasya Yoga. That's the weakness, real weakness. And their dispositor, had he been strong, he could have saved them.
Right.
Their dispositor is messed up.
What can you please tell me what is Amavasya Yoga?
In general, Sun and Moon being together, especially very close, is Amavasya Yoga. Sun and Moon together in any house can ruin that house. Or if they are with any planet, it's like a shadow, right? They basically
If
bring.
you wanted to do the Amavasya Shanti,
No. The thing is, the chart is cast at the time of Shukla Pratipad. So this chart will have Amavasya Yoga anyway. And the Amavasya Yoga Shanti, all those don't apply to these mundane charts. They apply to natal charts. So there is no fancy. This chart by definition has Amavasya Yoga. The lunar New Year chart. The only thing is, it's affecting the Lagna Lord. In another chart, it may not be affecting the Lagna Lord. For some other country, it may be affecting something else. It may be affecting the 6th house of enemy. It's for somebody else. But for US, it's affecting the government, the executive branch of the government, the 10th house. So some problems in the executive wing of government are possible during the year. Okay?
and then 7th house of relation also is
7th house of relations can be strained. Right. Okay, let's look at the dasha. So, Sun and Moon dasha, when the Amavasya Yoga will basically work. When is that dasha running? From June 23 to September 8. So, June to September is a little problematic time. And Jupiter dasha, when is Jupiter dasha running? That is a problematic. The New Year time basically. December 21 till February 5.
is running in August, right?
Yeah. That is why I said. From June 23rd till September 8. Sorry. August 21 till October 8. August 21 to October 8 is Sun Moon Dasha. That is one problematic period. The other, because of the Amavasya Yoga affecting the Lagna Lord. The other problematic period is December. Jupiter. December 21 till February whatever. So Jupiter Dasha. That is actually worse Dasha. Jupiter Dasha is a really worse Dasha. And if you look at the Satyamsha, Jupiter is in Purishakamsha. Purishaka means pieces. It's not really a good Satyamsha. It shows all the, it basically shows undesirable things. And Sun and Moon are in Kantaka Satyamsha. Satyamsha. Go to Amsha rulers. Basics, upper tab basics, lower tab Amsha rulers, and then in the pop-up menu select Satyamsha. So Sun and Moon are together in the Kantaka Satyamsha. Kantaka means thorn. So two planets giving Amavasya Yoga in Kantaka Satyamsha, afflicting the Lagna Lord. So that is problematic. So Sandasha, Mundasha are problematic. There is some problem. And if you look at the Navamsa of protection, they are all in the 9th house, but they are Sun and Moon are in the 9th house, but they are also in the Bhadgasthana. In the Navamsa, Sun and Moon are in Bhadgasthana, and they are restricted by Saturn and Ketu. For both Sun and Moon, Saturn restriction and Ketu restriction are not desirable. And neither Sun nor Moon is strong there. They are in an inimical sign. Moon is not bad. Moon doesn't hate Libra because it's a sign owned by Venus. Moon is a Jalatattva planet, Venus is a Jalatattva planet. Moon is after all exalted in Venus sign. So Libra is okay, but Sun is debilitated. But Saturn and Ketu are much stronger there. Saturn is exalted there, it's a friendly sign. For Ketu also it's a friendly sign. So two male fixed in a friendly sign are beating down on Sun and Moon. And this is all happening in the Bhadgasthana. In the chart that shows relations with other countries and the Purvapundya. So that is problematic. So Sun Moon, just as we saw in the Rashi chart, Navamsa is also confirming it. And let us finally look at Trimshamsa. If there is some mishap or some undesirable event happens, Trimshamsa should show it. If basically the collective psyche of the country experiences some bad emotions during the period, it should be shown in Trimshamsa. If you look at it, because there is a thought of evil. Navamsa is a thought of blessing, and in the thought of blessing they are restricted in Bhadgasthana. Now look at the thought of evil. Navamsa, Trimshamsa, they balance each other. Here also, Sun, Moon are restricted by Rahu and Ketu, notes, and also Venus. Venus with Uchabhanga. And Venus is the 6th lord, and Moon is the 8th lord. They are restricting 9th lord Sun. So in general, this combination is looking very ominous. So Sun Dasha, Moon Dasha look very bad. And of course Jupiter also is Lagna Lord debilitated in the 2nd house, he is also not great here. But Sun and Moon are what really come out strongly. When you look at Rashi, Navamsa, Trimshamsa, all of them. In Rashi, Jupiter stands out, but when you look at Trimshamsa, Navamsa, Rashi, Sun and Moon are really starting to stand out. So Sun Dasha, Moon Dasha, when is it? August 21st to September, October 8. So basically end of August, September and beginning first half of October. This period there may be some disappointing developments in US. Some developments relating to the government or something which will affect the mood of the country, which will put the country in a bad mood. So that is a dangerous sign. And before that, Venus Dasha is a great Dasha. Right? Mercury Dasha is going to come soon. Mercury Dasha is a good Dasha. Right now, Saturn Dasha is running. Saturn Dasha is a great Dasha. So right now, things are fine. Saturn Dasha from February 16 to April 13 is good. Mercury is Lagna Lord in the 10th house. Mercury Dasha is good. So right now, things are fine. But it will be the summer which will be of concern. And how will be relationships in general with other countries during this year? How will be relationships? How is this year for relationships with other countries? One Lagna Lord Saturn is in 9th house in exaltation, but with in retrogression. The other Lagna Lord is Rahu. He is in the 3rd house, in the Navamsa. Talk about Navamsa. Navamsa, one Lagna Lord is in the 9th house, Saturn. The other Lagna Lord, Rahu, is in the 3rd house. Right? Both are basically reasonably well placed. Rahu in the 3rd is good, Saturn in the 9th. So both the Lagna Lords are basically well placed. But and the 7th house has Jupiter in it. But the 7th Lord is debilitated and afflicted. So the thing is, even though this year starts on a very good note in terms of foreign relations, this doesn't really seem like a year of great relations with other countries, right? Simply because the 7th Lord is debilitated and afflicted by Ketu and Saturn. So there are going to be some relationship problems. Is there a possibility of a war? Because I mean, Afghanistan, we are becoming more aggressive, and North Korea is taking some steps. They are trying to put a satellite in orbit, and US, Japan and Korea suspect that this is actually a long range missile that they are going to try out. So they want to, they are actually moving some warships in that peninsula, Korean peninsula, and preparing to basically shoot it down if necessary. And North Korea clearly said, if you shoot down this missile, this is just a satellite. We are going to put a satellite in orbit. If you shoot it down, this is basically an act of war. So I think, is there a possibility of a war? Looking at this chart, what do you think? Third house of his aggression and boldness has Rahu in it.
And it's an exchange of.
Yeah. Third and Lagna have exchange between Mars and Rahu, but that can show aggressive moves, not necessarily war. War comes with the sixth house. How is the sixth house? Sixth Lord Moon is restricted by Saturn, Ketu, Sun. But the thing is, sixth has to be strong for a war to happen. Sixth Lord being restricted doesn't really show fighting a war. It will actually show screwing up the wars that you are fighting. Withdrawal from the wars, or really doing a bad job with the wars that you are fighting. So, and sixth Lord being Moon itself, like you said, it is Moon himself. He doesn't really show great wars. But then he is a malefic here. Sixth Lord Moon is a natural malefic in this chart, because this is just after Amavasya. So it can actually show some wars, but it doesn't show wars going well. So overall, sixth Lord is weak. So no major wars are expected this year, even though this is called Virojana Samvatsara. No major wars are expected, but at the same time, no smooth relations. It is a problematic year. We will quickly see Iran chart, because not Iran, actually Iran also. Iran also is interesting.
For Iran, they are trying to get related.
Yeah, they are trying or we are trying. I am not following the news, but I thought we are making overtures, but they are not responding. That's what I thought.
So they responded.
Yeah, okay, that's good, that's good.
They're going to go to the
Good.
Afghanistan conference.
Okay, very good.
Separately.
Excellent. Let's quickly see Iran chart. Tehran, Iran, make the lunar new year chart. This is over. Okay, this is at the end of the time. 29 degrees 11 minutes Virgo. Okay, so how are things for Iran? Let's not spend too much time, but let's quickly. Let's quickly see what dasha should be used for Iran. This is the Samdasha can be used, right? Lagna Lord Mercury is in the 7th house.
Right.
So let's use, and also is Vargotama Lagna. Shatabdika also applies actually, interestingly. Shatabdika dasha also applies. So which one should we use? Shatabdika is 100 years, and it has a probability of 112. Tishatha Samdasha has a probability of 1/6, and it is 72 years. So let's use. And moreover, Mercury, who is in the 7th house, is basically debilitated. So let's use Shatabdika Dasha. So if you look at the Shatabdika Dasha, before we look at the Dasha, let's see which house is most afflicted here. 7th house is badly afflicted. So even though there are some overtures for good relations with other countries, will they have a good relation with other countries? We'll go to Navamsa later, but just based on Rashi, it doesn't seem very promising. Right? And Lagna Lord with 9th Lord Venus, but also with 12th Lord Sun, and there is Amavasya Yoga. And Sun and Moon are in Kantaka constructions. And the 7th Lord Jupiter is debilitated with Rahu, with the 6th Lord Rahu. 7th and 6th Lords are together. So relationships are not looking really great. And let's look at the Navamsa. In the Navamsa, Lagna Lord,
if Lagna Lord is moving to 7th house, they will try to
be more proactive in terms of diplomacy. And Mercury, Venus, both are planets of diplomacy there. That is a positive sign. Let's go to Navamsa. See, the thing is, 7th house is not necessarily just relations with other countries in the Rashi chart. Seventh house shows so many things in the Rashi chart, right? It is also the house of death, house of any events of death in the country, marriages, and also in general relationships of people within the country. So many things are there. Let's go to Navamsha to see foreign relations. How is this chart? The Lagna has exalted Mercury in it.
But seventh lord is
Shows a very flexible attitude. Seventh Lord Jupiter is in 12th house, but Bhavakesha in 12th is good. And he is in a friendly sign.
right.
So relationships are not that bad. And there is Mars in the 6th house of war, but he is the 8th Lord. 8th Lord in 6th, that is Viparita Rajoga. It doesn't really show big war or something. So overall, it is possible that there will be some reconciliation and they will show some flexible attitude. So there doesn't seem to be a major concern with Iran during this year. But if you look at the 10th house, the 10th Lord Mercury is debilitated. 10th house shows king. 10th Lord Mercury is debilitated, even though he is with several planets, he is debilitated. Whereas if you look at the 3rd Lord, opposition basically, he is actually even though he is in an inimical sign, he is in 6th house, he is strong. So, and if you look at the Dashamsha, in the Dashamsha, if you look, the 3rd and 6th, 10th Lord happens to be the same planet, Mars, and he is exalted with he is debilitated with K2 in the 6th house. But the thing is, if you look from the 3rd house, he is basically in a Kendra, having Argala on it. If you look from the 10th house, he is in Bhagasthana. So it seems like there are slightly better placement in the Rashi and the Dashamsha for the opposition party than the government. So there is a chance that in the elections this year in Iran, there is a chance that there will be a change of government, there will be a change of leadership. That is a possibility. And also if you look at the Rashi chart, see in the Dashamsha also Mercury is aspecting this Ketu, Mercury and Rahu are aspecting Ketu. And the Rashi, the 10th Lord is Mercury.
Right.
He is debilitated and he is with Venus. So the bottom line is the government may be actually mixed government in the sense it may not be one person, one party basically. They can be, I'm not sure exactly how politics works in Iran, but there may be several influences basically governing the country. You saw one strong man controlling the country like is happening now, Mr. Ahmadinejad. There may be a...
But even now, he doesn't control it. Mullahs control it. He is only a...
Is that really the case?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
why... No, but he has a working government, right?
Okay, anyway, I don't want to talk too much about things that I don't know. I don't know about Iran, but looking at the news, etc., my impression was mullahs have some control, but Ahmadinejad is calling all the shots right now. That is my impression. But I don't know. Anyway, bottom line is, given the Mercury's influence in this year's chart, this year basically there will be a broad-based government compared to some strong center of power. Let's quickly go to North Korea. That is another country of interest. Actually, Iraq. We have been struggling in Iraq for a long time. Let's go to Iraq. Baghdad, Iraq. So Baghdad, Iraq. Let's make the New Year chart. This also be probably Virgo, but a few degrees earlier. So this also has Virgo, 23 degree Virgo rising. The Hora is Saturn. First let's look at Dashamsha to see if there will be some stability and some stable government. If you look at the Dashamsha, Lagna is Sagittarius. Lagna Lord Jupiter is weak in 6th house with a in an inimical sign, right? The 10th Lord Mercury is not bad, but he is with Rahu, 3rd Lord Rahu. Basically, 3rd house was opposition and 10th house was government. So they have to work together basically. He is not that strong. And if you look at the strongest house in the chart, 4th house, that has 6th Lord, 8th Lord and 3rd Lord, splitting 9th Lord. So there is a bad yoga there. 6th Lord, 8th Lord and 9th Lord is a bad yoga. Moreover, the ruler of the year is there, Saturn. So because the ruler of the year is there in a Chaturgraha Kota, it becomes very important house. So So it doesn't look that great. It doesn't seem like. And Mars and Ketu are in the 8th house. That is not good. Mars and Ketu in the 8th house show sudden changes, etc. Setbacks. So Mars and Ketu being in the 8th house, the 5th lord being of Purapunya being in the 8th house is not good. So overall this Dashansha is not looking that ominous from the point of view of a stable government. So Iraq may continue to struggle a bit. It doesn't seem promising for Iraq. And let's quickly look at the Navamsha. In the Navamsha, Lagna has Jupiter. He is the 5th lord as well as a 8th lord. And the 3rd house has lot of planets. They are weak, but they are in the 3rd house. 3rd house shows initiative in terms of relations with other countries. So and the 7th lord, Saturn, is also in the 3rd house. And Mars is in the Yokarka, Mars is in the 7th house. So relations with other countries will be better. Countries will be investing more money in them. They will be dealing more with the other countries. So relations with other countries look fine, but government seems very weak. And let's look at D30 to see the mood in the country. So look at the D30, which is the evils plaguing the country. The Lagna is Sagittarius, Capricorn, having exalted Jupiter in it, and 3rd house has lot of planets. 3rd house of initiative and boldness has lot of planets. It's not that bad. 6th and 8th. Debilitated. They say exalted, I mean debilitated. Debilitated Jupiter is there. So it's not that great, but at the same time, the 3rd house has all these planets. There is a very bad combination in the 3rd house. And what is 3rd house? 3rd house is the house of initiative and boldness. So there may be some misplaced misadventures basically. Iraq may engage in some misadventures. They may take some actions boldly, but misinformedly. Some bold actions may backfire, but except that there isn't anything really terrible. So Iraq, there is some hope. Some hope is there for Iraq. Let's finally look at North Korea. That is another country of interest. Battery seems to be fine. Don't worry about the battery. Okay. What is the capital? Pyongyang? Is it Pyongyang? I think Pyongyang. I don't know how it's spelled in the software. We'll see. Korea, North. Oops. K. Search for Korea. It's not coded as North Korea, but Korea North. Yeah, search for Korea North. Yeah, Pyongyang is there. Pyongyang, Korea North. Pyongyang. Pyongyang. Or Pyongyang. So Pyongyang, Korea North. If you make the lunar new year chart, it will be a totally different sign rising. Scorpio, Kash. Lagna is in deep Gandanta. 29 degrees 41 minutes Scorpio is rising. Scorpio, end of last degree of Scorpio is rising. Is it good or bad?
Actually not good.
It is terrible.
Some cases we have seen terrible Gandanta.
Yeah. In the lunar new year chart, whichever countries are getting deep Gandanta, there will be some instability there during the year. It is a bad year. So there is some evil for the country. And where is all this bad combination, basically Amavasya Yoga, etc. Where is it happening? Here, the Amavasya Yoga is happening on the 7th and 8th lord. 7th and 8th lords are together. 7th lord Venus, 8th lord Mercury are together. That is a Maraka combination, Manakaraka combination. And Amavasya Yoga is there. And 9th and 10th lords are there. The 7th and 8th lords Marakas are with the 9th and 10th lords. So some evil to the king is possible. The ruler, death to the ruler or something like that is possible. And what else? 9th house is also the house of fortune of the country. So country will run out of fortune. And Purapunya, the house of Purapunya has all these negative combinations. 8th lord, 7th lord, Amavasya Yoga, etc. is happening in the house of Purapunya. As if that's not enough, the lord of that house, Jupiter, is not only, earlier we said he is in Neecha with Rahu. Now there is one more thing. He is in Manakaraka Sthana. So Jupiter is totally beaten down. So Purapunya is gone during this year. And moreover, apart from Purapunya, this house is the house of emotions, judgment. So North Korea will misjudge badly during this year. This is a year of fatal misjudgments on the part of North Korea, the country of North Korea.
Even in the Pinshamsha, like 5th house.
Yeah, in the Tinshamsha also the fifth house of judgment is badly affected. And let's go to the Navamsha. Actually Dashamsha. How is the king? In the Dashamsha, if you look at the Dashamsha, the 10th Lord Saturn is in 12th house of loss. And there is Amavasya Yoga there. And the Lagna Lord is Mars is affected by Ketu. Okay. And functional malefic Mercury and Badhaka Lord Rahu are in the 10th house. 10th house contains Mercury and Rahu. Rahu is Badhakesha and Mercury is 6th Lord. So 6th Lord and Badhakesha together is always a bad combination. And that happening in the 10th house in Dashamsha is not good for the king of the country or the government of the country. And relations with other countries. How are relations with other countries? The Lagna Lord Sun is in, Lagna Lord Jupiter is in Leo, the 6th house. It shows aggressive and quarrelsome attitude with other countries. Good thing is 7th Lord Mercury is in the 7th house. He is the savior. Mercury is the savior. But 8th house is really bad. The 5th Lord, the 6th Lord, the 12th Lord, the 9th Lord, they are all together. Basically, Amavasya Yoga and afflicted Sun and Moon are in the 8th house. So 8th house, even though 7th house is strong, Mercury is strong in the 7th house, there is also Badhakasthana. He can be mixed. Given that 8th house is so bad, including Moon in Manakarakasthana, the Lord of 5th house of judgment in Manakarakasthana. Given that placement, Mercury's strength in the 7th house is probably not that important. The fact that he is Badhakesha in Badhakasthana will probably play its role. So overall, the Navamsha looks, out of all the Navamshas we have seen, this looks the worst. So they will ruin their relations with other countries. They will engage in foolish actions, ruin their relations with other countries. So this is a year of great concern for North Korea. Finally, we will close a little early today. Before we close, let us check India. New Delhi, India. Who is New Delhi, India? For India, the lunar new year chart has Libra. Libra rising. 22 degrees 44 minutes Libra rising for India. How is this? Hora Lord is Mars. So Mars is the Hora Lord. He is the 7th Lord of relations with other countries. He is in the 5th house. So let's look at the Vimshatri Dasha in terms of Dasha. So how is Navamsha? In the Navamsha, 7th house has the Amavasya Yoga, and however Sun and Moon happen to own 4th and 5th house. The 4th Lord and the 5th Lord are together in a Kendra with Saturn and Ketu. So there is affliction, but they are actually, their agenda is not that bad anymore. They are not that bad, those two planets. And 6th Lord Mercury is in 6th house giving Harsha Yoga. And Lagna and 11th house have a Paravatna that is not good, but at least the house of the 9th house Sagittarius, his Lord is in another planet. Jupiter is a savior, 9th Lord in the 5th house. So Punya is there. So Navamsha is basically seen for the blessings, and some blessings are there. So it doesn't look that bad. And if you look at the Dashamsha government, actually if you look at the Rashi itself, how is the 10th house? 10th Lord first, if you see the Moon, he is engaged in he is involved in a Amavasya Yoga. He is with Badhaka Lord Sun. He is with 8th Lord Venus. So Badhaka and 8, two instances are affecting him. 9th Lord Mercury is also there. That is a good Raj Yoga. But 8th Lord and the Badhaka Lord are affecting the 10th Lord. Moreover, 10th house contains Ketu. When 10th house contains Ketu, it's not really that strong for the ruling party. But how is the 3rd house? 3rd house of opposition. It has its Lord Jupiter is debilitated with Rahu. So 3rd Lord Jupiter is debilitated and he is with Rahu. So again, it's not really conducive. So the chart is neither good for the ruling party nor for the opposition party. Both will suffer. But let's look at the dashamsha specifically, the chart to see the politics. In the dashamsha, how are things? The lagna contains 8th Lord Jupiter. It shows some big change in terms of the politics of the country, some big change. And Jupiter is more favorable for right-wing kind of parties. And if you look at the 10th house, 10th house is Aquarius. The 10th Lord Saturn, there are two 10th Lords. One 10th Lord Rahu is basically in the 12th house from that house with Mercury. Taking 10th house as Lagna, Mercury is 8th Lord. So Lagna Lord is basically with the 8th Lord in the 12th house. If you take the other 10th Lord, he is basically in the 11th house with Sun and Moon, 6th Lord, 7th Lord and Yokarka. So it's a very mixed situation. For the ruling party, there are mixed indications. So it seems like there will be some change in the government, but at the same time, the ruling party, they'll probably be a hung parliament, and even if Congress party is replaced at the center, it may do well in some states or something like that. Basically, nobody can say this is our election. It's not like nobody will cheat the elections probably. It will be a really messy scenario, messy election. And sometimes there is popular, either the party in rule is either very popular or very unpopular, and accordingly all the state elections, all the central elections, in all the elections one party will sweep to power, or one coalition will sweep to power. It will probably not be like that in this case. Another thing is, when we see these mixed indications on the opposition and the ruling party, we are not necessarily talking about a party, we are talking about a coalition, because in India no party is ruling right now, there is a coalition. So the thing is, the fact that for the ruling coalition as well as for the opposing coalition, there are bad indications and there are mixed indications. It means probably there will be some restructuring of these coalitions. Even though UPA and NDA, they are all contesting as one unit. After the election, probably some parties from NDA will go to UPA or vice versa. Some parties will jump from one coalition to another coalition. So that is probably why we see mixed indications for both 3rd and 10th. But the thing is, if you look at the 10th house, the 10th Lords are in Dudvasya from the 10th house, either in the 2nd or 12th, right, in the Samsha. But if you look at the 3rd house in the Samsha, it has Mars and Ketu, two aggressive planets. Moreover, its Lord is in the 9th house. It has Yokarka from it in it. The 3rd house, Cancer, has Yokarka Mars in it, and the 6th Lord Ketu in it, which is not bad. And its Lord is in the 9th house from it. So overall, if you look at the placement of the 3rd Lord from 3rd and the placement of planets in the 3rd seems to win. So even though the opinion polls are saying that Congress is leading at the central level as well as in the state of AP, of course we haven't seen AP here, my impression is there will be some changes as weeks pass by and as we approach the elections, and probably Congress will suffer a bit, and probably the BJP party or some opposition party will do well, will do better. Okay, so with that,
Actually, Horata, I looked at, and I want to end it for
look at
for government of US.
Yeah.
I looked at it.
Yeah, do it. You want to do for US financials? Yeah. So what do you say about the horror chart? The horror chart has Virgo rising.
Only the 2nd Lord is again having a more share.
Yeah. Lagna Lord, 2nd Lord and 9th Lord are together, but they are affected by 11th Lord and 12th Lord and Amavasya Yoga. Who is the ruler of the year for US? I forgot. Moon. Okay. Basically, see, fifth house is important when you are talking about the finances. The fifth house is the house of emotions and judgment, and also basically the emotional state, how happy you are. So if you look at the fifth house, first of all, fourth house, the house of peace, has Amavasya Yoga. It has 4 planets. It has an interesting combination, and its lord is in sixth house, Yadusthana, in a friendly sign, in an inimical sign. So fourth house is not good. There is no happiness, peace. Now fifth house of emotional stability, that house is badly beaten down. Eighth lord is there, Rahu is there. Sixth and eighth lords are there, Mars and Rahu. So the feeling of comfort, okay, things are fine, economy is fine, that is unlikely to come to US during this year. But relatively, among all the planets, which dashas are good dashas? Saturn is in the Saturn dasha, Ketu is the third lord in the 11th house, Ketu dasha is good, Saturn dasha is good, right?
Yes.
Mercury is good, Mercury is the Lagna lord in a quadrant, so Mercury dasha is good.
Till midday.
Yeah. So Mercury, Ketu, even Venus is probably fine. But Sun, after August 21, Sun dasha will come. Sun is the 12th lord in the 4th house of happiness, and afflicting, more importantly, afflicting important planets. And he is in Kantaka systems, if you remember. So Sun dasha is probably what will kick in some bad events, which will.
That's what we said before, other chart too.
Right.
In August 21st.
This is
in US chart only.
in US chart. In terms of now economy also, we looked at other Rashi, etc. So there will be some problems in the country which will affect the mood of the Wall Street. And how is the year for automakers in US? Let's look at the Rashi chart. For me,
We should look at the D16.
D16 is the vehicle of the country. Let's just look at the Rashi. So this is also a good suggestion. Let's look at Rashi. In general, not just auto but mechanical engineering industry. They say how will be the mechanical engineering industry in the US. For that, who is the Karaka? Take the Karaka Lagna. Who is the Karaka? Mars. Taking Mars as Lagna, how is the chart? How is the chart during this year? Not that great. There are a bunch of planets in the second house giving Amavasya Yoga. The second lord is in the 12th house. The second lord of wealth is in the 12th house in debility affected by Rahu. So it's not that good. But the most interesting thing is because 10th house is the house that is most beaten down. So something will happen to the government. Some instability in the government is possible during this year. Okay, with that we will end today's class. And actually it will be interesting. I don't want to see now, but Pakistan and Afghanistan also see. Those two class will be interesting for this year. You can try to look at them yourself. Look at the Rashi, Navamsha, Trimshamsha, Dashamsha, etc. Okay? Om Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.